You know, when I read Titus 2, I am impressed with how Paul could be so clearly defining what he was expecting from the church. He was saying sincerity. He gives some credentials for older men, older women, younger women. What he was really looking for, young men. Verse 7, Titus, you're to show yourself a pattern of good works. And remember, he's talking to a man, Titus, who he has already a lot of respect for, but he's really telling him how he is to minister and what to look for in these practical ways. The kind of speech, sincerity that cannot be condemned. Verse 8. Now, I want you to talk back to me. What would be the opposite of these words? What is he really saying? Have you thought about it? What is he really not wanting to see in the church? What? Gossip, the world, pardon? Compromise, legalism, carnality, lying. Now, has anybody worked here in the United States and you worked with somebody who lied? Have you ever worked with anybody that slandered another person, or maybe you? Yeah, it really happens that there is manipulation, control, lying, slander, gossip, and this cannot be in the church. This is essentially what he's saying. Titus, we want to have a quality of life that is from the Holy Spirit, and we maintain good works. This is a phrase repeated a few times. It's the end of chapter 2. And Titus is told that he is to rebuke, exhort with all authority, verse 15. Verse 14, chapter 2, verse 14. Zealous of good works, chapter 3, verse 8. Maintain good works. Verse 14, learn to maintain good works for necessary uses. Now, in our ministry, we hardly ever talk about works, doing good works. But there's another way we could say it, bearing good fruit. We can also say, it's to be practical. It's to have an effect in where I live, my family, my job, my work. The kind of character that we're looking for is a character where you are living before God. I brought my neighbor to the play one year, driving him home. He turned to me and he said, "Now, do you think about God every day?" This was fascinating to him and a whole new thing. You mean like you're really into this? Like, do you think about God every day? For us, like to live before God and to know the nature of God is our joy, and to reflect upon Him, meditate upon Him, and worship Him. Turn to 1 Samuel 17, please. Verse 34. David is in the pre-Goliath battle stage talking to King Saul when David suggested that I can go out and take this Philistine out and fight with him. And Saul said, but you are only a youth, in verse 33, and he a man of war from his youth. David said unto Saul, thy servant kept his father's sheep. There came a lion and a bear. Now, whose sheep were they? His father's. They were not his. That's like one thing that is interesting about it. It isn't a self-centered life, but it's a life for others. And when he took care of his father's sheep, a lion came, and David was able to say, you know, that sheep is important. Is everybody okay back there? David could say, that sheep, was that Lazarus coming out of the tomb or what? Was that a yawn or what was that? Okay. All right. David could say, what's a sheep? To me, my life is more important than a sheep. There's a lion and a bear. But David had a relationship with God and his dad, and he's saying, these sheep are not mine, but I am responsible. God put me here. I'm taking care of the sheep. It reflects the ministry, because God's people are sheep in Psalm 100. And that God has put you in the life of other people, and your relationship with God is empowering you so that you and I are able to do the extraordinary. We are able to minister not with the ability of our flesh, but we are able to minister with the ability that God gives us. Okay? And this is 2 Corinthians chapter 3, 5, 6. We have, who is sufficient for these things? And we discover, and this is a key thing, we discover when we are relating to God that we are able to do beyond ourselves. We are able to live beyond ourselves. We discover this, and it's really fun, because David and the story of the sheep here, you know, the whole thing is that it was God that was with him, and nobody was around. That's like a guy living in a dorm, somebody teaching in the school, somebody on the sidewalk, somebody at a bus stop, and God says to you in your heart, I want you to follow me now in this situation, and you will discover me now in this situation. Not later, you know, like some people think when they graduate from Bible college, they're going to wake up the next morning and there's going to be an airline ticket on the bureau and they're going to have, you know, Billy Graham #2, you know. I'm a missionary, I'm going to save the world. It happens this way. David is watching his dad's sheep. It's like not a good job. It's a job, you know, where it's going nowhere. David is doing a menial task. It's not a big deal. I've seen the shepherds in the Middle East and in Eastern Europe, and I have watched them. And I mean, it really is not an exciting job. It really is, you know, class B category, you know, C, D. You know, but David said that a lion came, and this is what typically would happen. A lion came, I just got my record, you know, Dad, one's gone. Why? What happened? A lion came. Oh, I see. Okay, I'm glad you're okay. That's a big deal. A wild animal like a lion came and took one out. But David, he was different. And this is where we see like what Paul is saying to Titus. Like Titus, you have to lead the people to stay on target and not compromise for something less. You are to be building them up and teaching sound doctrine that is able to have a big impact, because Jesus isn't just somebody 2,000 years ago that's gone. Jesus is here, like Jesus is to be real on the island where there are liars and evil beasts and slow bellies. So this is what happened. David, in his heart, he goes, not going to happen. And he's not going to happen. It's a lion, it doesn't matter. It's not going to happen. God is with me. He took and he smites the lion. That's not enough. A bear comes, same thing. And what are we talking about? But about character in a way that is on a backside somewhere nobody notices it, that is happening inside in your heart. This is where the meditation of the Word of God is so important. Where when the Bible is speaking to your heart and you embrace that, this is where you are living. On a Friday night when you lay down your head on a pillow and nobody is there but you, and you have to think about things. Where am I going? What am I looking for? What do I want to do? What am I believing? And this is where God is saying to you, I want you to really believe me. I want you to trust me. I want you to follow me. I am with you. I am God and I am with you. It's there, not the day after graduation. It's in your first year, in your second year, it's in your third year. It's later, it's a year after graduation, and 10 years later, it's where we are recognizing that we have followed on and we know Him. And this is really, that's it. That's the message. Let's read the verse. It said, verse 34, David said to Saul, thy servant kept his father's sheep, and there came a lion and a bear and took a lamb out of the flock. And I went out after him, smote him, delivered him out of his mouth. I did do that. I did. I can't believe it, but I did. I did it. I can't believe it, but I did it. That happens. And that's why I'm here today, to tell you, oh dear King Saul, I'm ready and available. I can take this guy out. I think so. And I'm not much at all. I'm a little kid from the backside. And my family isn't so happy about me being here. And my big brothers rebuked me because I left the sheep in the wilderness. Read that a few verses earlier. But I have such a compulsion in my heart about what is needed to be done here. And I believe that God is bigger than this problem. And that story is written for us. And it is why Paul is writing to Titus, and why he loves Titus, because he believes Titus is like that kind of guy. And that's what the church is based on. If we have some of those people, then they are able to help others, and we will grow up and we will become also like this and not like the world. That's the issue. Like we started our class with that. We just simply have to be, God must make us different from what is in the world. Verse 35, I went out after the lion, smote him. I think I read that. and slew him. Thy servant slew both the lion and the bear, verse 36. And this uncircumcised Philistine shall be as one of them, seeing he hath defied the armies of the living God. David said, moreover, the Lord that delivered me out of the paw of the lion and out of the paw of the bear, he'll deliver me out of the hand of this Philistine. And Saul said unto David, go, and the Lord be with thee. Now, let me just finish with this. There's what I believe like a maturity barrier for believers. We putt along and we stumble along and we wrestle with temptation and where I'm going and what I'm doing and, should I be this way? Should I be like this or be like that? But there's a maturity that happens in your life as you follow on to know the Lord. It builds, and you start to say, no, wait a minute, I know where I'm going, I know what I'm doing, and I know there's no price too high to pay. I'm going for it. I'm fully committed. I'm fully believing. I have tasted it, and I believe it. I believe that I can be a fully committed and dedicated follower of Christ. And that lying is too cheap for me. And being superficial and empty and shallow, it's like I know I don't like it, I don't know how to get out of it, but now I have discovered, I have found something, and I have an increased confidence. And that increased confidence is so healthy in an assembly because it is contagious. People start to say, I want to be like that. I want to believe like that. I believe I can do that. I believe that God is with me also. I believe that our prayers are really powerful. I believe that I can learn the Bible. I believe that we can pray for the sick. I believe we can send out missionaries. I believe that this all can happen. We can ordain pastors. I believe we can assemble together, and I believe all of this can happen, not because, I have the ability, but because the relationship that is in God has come to us, and we live in that. And that relationship is Jonathan and David, Moses and Joshua, Jesus and the disciples, Elijah and Elisha, Paul and Timothy, Paul and Titus. It has to be. And God the Father and Jesus Christ, it has to be. And that is, how everything else spins off of that. And you find Budapest Church becomes a base. And I think we have vision for, we have 7 churches, I think, maybe 30 missionaries from Finland, I think 80 missionaries from Finland, many countries, a base, Moscow, a base, many places in Africa, a base. And our hope is that would happen with us too, here in Baltimore. It is, and more. Okay, any question or comment? Okay, then would you just take a few minutes and just pray, just think about it for a few minutes, and then fellowship with each other before you go out the door.